A really big game tonight in the NBA, a part of a 9-game slate around the association on this Friday as everybody gets ready for the stretch run after the All-Star break. Donnie and I mentioned this game yesterday that we thought was played in New York because why wouldn't the Knicks, who were at home last night hosting the Bulls, and the Cavs, who were in Brooklyn, play the following night on the second leg of a back-to-back in New York City? Well, the NBA had other ideas. Matchup tonight in Cleveland between the Cavaliers and the Knicks. Both victorious last night, neither covered. Cleveland won by 13 in Brooklyn. They were a 13-point favorite. The Knicks winning in overtime, edging out the Bulls at home inside Madison Square Garden as a 12-point favorite, so Chicago covered. Haven't even talked about this game yet, but we'll get to it in just a second. DRS, when you look at the records for these two teams, 45 and 10. The mark for Cleveland. Best in the association. OKC did not play last night, so they trail the Cavs now by a game. The Knicks 37 and 18. Third best record in the Eastern Conference. Cleveland has been great this year. If you are going to push back against the Knicks, being a true conference contender out east, the one thing you can say against the best of the best, they have faltered this year. They haven't beaten the Cavaliers. They haven't beaten the Celtics so far this season. Now, they're an 8.5-point dog tonight in the land on the second leg of a back-to-back for both teams changing destination. How close will tonight's game be between the Cavs and the Knicks?
I think the Cavaliers are going to win by double digits tonight. You might look at that line and be like, hey, it opened up at 7.5, and now you've seen that live line between 8 and 8.5 as it just, I believe, flipped back to 8. Also the total. Still pretty high for two teams that played back-to-back, but also understand back-to-back sometimes aren't alike. They were both in the city of New York. Yes, they're both going to take planes back to Cleveland here. One team played in overtime and played their starters a crazy amount of time, and one team won by double digits and had their starters play a normal amount of time. And you're going back home with Cleveland, one of the best teams in the NBA at home. And I look at that line, opened up at 7.5, now sits at the 8 number. I buy into that. I think this is a double-digit win tonight for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I'm willing to back that.
Yeah, DRS, it does feel like it. But I almost wonder if Tibbs is like, see, they think we got no chance because I played all you guys 40-plus minutes last night in an overtime thriller against the Bulls, who are 14 games below 500. See, they don't believe in us. I almost wonder if the New York Knicks keep this game close, understanding its importance and the potential of a playoff preview. But to Donnie's point, everything logistically should favor Cleveland. That total on the rise, by the way, now at 241. 30 minutes or fewer for every guy in the starting five for the Cavs, 38 minutes or more for every guy in the starting five for the Knicks last night. Cleveland, one of the best covered teams in the NBA, 35-19-1 against the spread. Also 45-10 straight up. The Cavs have been great as a favorite. The Knicks have been often booked as a favorite this year. Donnie, not oftentimes an underdog, but again, speaking to the idea that the Knicks against the best of the best haven't been great this year. Just 6 games as a dog for New York, only 2-4 ATS.
Yeah, and down one of their key players, Josh Hart, for tonight as opposed to that. And also, when you're looking like future long-term, which means the second half of the season, which is now a sprint into the playoffs, how much left are we having in the tank for the New York Knicks? We have to play that many minutes on a night-to-night basis and also just holding up. When you're just reading the line tonight, it seems like a crazy high line. 8 other outlets showing 8.5 tonight as a favorite towards Cleveland, where they were not rested and ready in the city when you had an overtime game in New York. They were both technically on the road last night because they were in New York City, now flying back. That line shouldn't be that high. I'm buying into that line. And also, that is a high number, as high as 242 out there. I know FanDuel is currently showing a 241.5. That's a pretty high number, but for me, it's a Cavaliers night tonight. More rested, if that can even be a word for both teams playing last night. I just think they're the better team tonight.
The Cavs' highest over percentage in the NBA, 36 of their 57 games, or 55 games rather, to the over, 65.5%. We know this has now been the story for the Knicks. Very lofty totals. Stayed under last night despite playing in overtime, but still 59.3% of the games for the Knickerbockers to the over this year. Both teams, 2 of the 5 highest over percentages in the NBA. Let's get to Houston. The Rockets' first game since the All-Star break. Same for the Timberwolves. Neither team in action last night. Houston, 3.5-point home favorite against the T-Wolves. 217 and a hook is that total. Houston, the 4 seed currently in the Western Conference, did not play its greatest basketball entering the All-Star break, dropping 7 of its last 10. The T-Wolves right now, DRS, would be the top team in the play-in tournament, but only a half game behind the Clippers for what would be the 6th seed in the Western Conference. So critical game for both that we anticipate factoring into that playoff race around the NBA.
Yeah, and I was also, as I just told you, buying into the line movement here with the Cleveland Cavaliers going up against the Knicks. Let's just say 7.5s up to 8s and a little bit higher at other spots. Almost the opposite here as we're taking a look between the Rockets and the Timberwolves. FanDuel New Jersey opened up this line at -5, and now the current number, you see that graphic up there, -4, it's actually 3.5. So I'm going to buy the lowest spot we've seen it today and take the Houston Rockets at home. And we just talked about a basketball game at 241, 242 as a total. How about this throwback? 217.5. Rock'em Sock'em Robots, which I'm going to lean towards the home team Rockets here to win by 5+ points. Let's go.
Houston is exactly even, 18-18 against the number in 36 games booked as a favorite this year. Minnesota, second best underdog cover team this season, 8-4-1 against the mark. It is crazy to see a total north of 240, and this one looking like a playoff total of 217 and Northern California foes. Both teams right now, same exact record, 28-27, occupying the final 2 spots in the Western Conference play-in tournament. The Dubs and the Kings tonight in California's capital in Sacktown. The Kings, a slight 2-point home underdog. Total stands now at 237. Man, that thing is getting up there. California clash tonight, DRS, between the Warriors and the Kings. Who takes it?
Yeah, it's funny, too, because you look at the line movement again, -1 to -2. I do lean towards the Warriors coming out, but it's always a little bit tough when two teams are okay off the All-Star break. But understand this, too. The All-Star break, where was it? It was in San Francisco. Not as if these guys are flying back 6-hour plane flights and trying to get ready. They're already back home. But I do buy into it a little bit. You're not supposed to take the overs at 237 and rising. You're back off of the break. I think this game has some mojo up and down the court. Let's go 240+ in this one and have some fun.
Golden State has won 3 of 4 games with Jimmy Butler in the lineup, all as a road favorite, covering in all 3 of those victories. More around the NBA on this Friday night. Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid, a 9-game slate once again for a second consecutive night in the NBA. And once again, for a second consecutive night in the NBA, the San Antonio Spurs are in Austin. They did beat the Phoenix Suns yesterday outright as a 2.5-point home dog, upsetting Kevin Durant and spoiling his return to Austin. That was even in the immediate aftermath, just a few hours after learning that Victor Wembanyama would not play for the remainder of this season, the blood clot in his shoulder. The Detroit Pistons head to Austin tonight to take on San Antonio. In Detroit, 4.5-point road favorite, total standing at 234.5. De'Aaron Fox, huge last night in the absence of Wemby. He'll have to be if the Spurs are going to keep winning games booked as an underdog, which, Donnie, just seeing it now, 3.5, make it 4.5, second leg of a back-to-back for San Antonio. Detroit did not play last night without Victor Wembanyama. I think we can expect the Spurs to be booked as a dog often down the stretch run of this NBA campaign.
No, we should. And also, looking at the Detroit line, again, open up at 3.5 here at FanDuel in New Jersey, now rising to 4.5. We'll see where that goes throughout the day. But it's one of those where sometimes we buy in. It's like the bump effect. You fire a manager, your superstar player gets injured, the team can rally and rise around the occasion. But sooner than later, you look around when that superstar isn't there to block a shot, get a rebound, have an assist, or certainly make a big shot. I think you're going to start to buy into that tonight. And also, it looks like the public is as well. 3.5 to 4.5. The total is 34.5. And also keep in mind, not a true home game here for San Antonio, where still on the road, still in a hotel at this point. So not normally just being at home in San Antonio, sleeping in your own bed. I'll go with the Detroit Pistons in this one. It's a little bit tougher of a handicap than the ones we just started talking about because something might be said where they are galvanized still and playing in a college town environment where it's a little bit different for the Detroit Pistons. Not an arena that the Pistons are used to, but the Spurs actually got to play in that arena. See where I'm going at this point here, but I'll still back the Pistons in this one, thinking that maybe that Wembanyama thing sort of leaks off a little bit for them today.
Cade Cunningham's been to Austin. Of course, he played in the Big 12 when Texas was still a Big 12 team. So he should be comfortable with the sight lines and all that goes with it. Again, if the season ended today and they start their stretch run, Detroit would be a 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, not even needing the play-in tournament, 29-26. And despite being 3 games above 500 throughout 55 games so far, the Pistons only a favorite 18 times, 8-10 against the number. San Antonio, perhaps, Donnie, although it did seem like a difficult path, even with a fully healthy all-star in Wemby, was still on the outside looking in at the play-in tournament. Still 3 games outside of the play-in tournament in the Western Conference for the Spurs. Let's go to Orlando, the top team in the Eastern Conference play-in tournament standings at the moment. But a disappointing year, I think we can say, for the Magic. The Grizz, a disappointing result last night in Indy, hoping for better tonight in Florida. 3.5-point spread in favor of Memphis. 225.5 is that total. The Grizzlies played in a game last night, Donnie, with a total of 250. It is down by nearly 25 points tonight as they head to Orlando.
Yes, and also both of these teams played last night. The Orlando Magic, which I said would beat the Atlanta Hawks, and did that. But I thought the Grizzlies would have a better performance there, going up against Indiana. But we thought that game would stay under. This line also, keep in mind, moving. Opened up at 2 here in New Jersey overnight. Now 3.5 across the board. Why? The Grizzlies are the better team, but it still is interesting where Orlando now goes back home after playing in Atlanta. The Memphis Grizzlies on the road, now going down to Orlando. I look at this 224.5 as the opening number, which now sits at 225.5. I actually like the over in this game. I think Memphis is going to get up and down the court. Now, it is still a back-to-back. We have to understand this. This isn't like we played 3 games in 4 nights. You're coming off of the All-Star break. Your legs should be somewhat back intact. I'm willing to take the over 225.5 in this game.
Memphis, 3rd highest over percentage in the NBA. They are now a half game behind Denver as the Nuggets have won 9 straight and occupy that 2nd spot in the Western Conference standings. So the Grizz need to keep pace. Still the best cover team as a favorite this year, despite losing outright last night against the Pacers in Indianapolis, 24-12 against the spread. But Orlando is known for a few things, Donnie. Great defense, and maybe not the best offensive performances. It's why the Magic have the 2nd highest under percentage around the NBA this year. 35 of their 57 games to the under. In fact, just straight up, the most unders played this year, 61.4% of their games to the under. The Bucks hope to make it 2 consecutive wins in Washington. The Raptors and the Heat in a game for Miami, trying to stay in Eastern Conference play-in tournament. And the Mavs and the Pelicans in Dallas. Of course, no Anthony Davis just yet. OKC, 15-point road favorite in Salt Lake, taking on the Jazz. Kind of checks out for the Thunder. But big spreads. First game after the All-Star break. Pay attention. More TPL next.